Welcome to Autonomous IT Agency Podcast. Today we want to answer a question: will AI kill or save your software agency? And our guest is Damian Winkowski, a CEO at Software House Club, a founding member and vice president at Soda, and software engineering manager at Leo Code. Damian, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, it's great to be here today.
And of course, with me, there's Roch, our fantastic co-host. Hey, Roch.
Hey, Camille.
Okay, guys. So, Damian, I'm glad we can talk, and I was waiting for this discussion, actually. Can you tell our audience a bit about yourself and how actually your experience with AI started? This is always like an interesting story for people, how software engineers and people who are now experienced actually became interested in this particular area. So just a few sentences about your
Sure.
experience.
So basically, I joined LeoCode around 5 years ago, and back then LeoCode started doing a project called Advisoro. It's a chatbot for contact center. And because I'm in the IT software industry for like 12 years right now, and I had a short break between the software houses. So it was after my previous company, Desmart. I took a break and I met Adam, who is the CEO of LeoCode. And he told me that they have this great contact center solution, which is AI solution. And together we were able to gain a very huge client. It was Ergo Hestia's second biggest insurance company. And with the power of AI, we were able to automate 30% of the contact center communication within the next few years. And back then, I thought that AI is still for some niche developers because it wasn't that popular back then, 5 years ago, because everyone was doing some JavaScript, startup works, and so on. But AI was purely for data scientists, Python guys. It wasn't that popular back then. I even remember that fees or rates for software developers in the AI space were lower than for people in the Java or JavaScript tech skill. So it was my first, I would say, practical and a practical case where I could see it in action, how it definitely replaces humans and helps people because the challenge of, for example, Ergo Hestia was that they had huge rotation, and you can imagine that the contact center isn't a super nice job. So you constantly answer the same questions. It's quite frustrating. You can have very quick burnout. So why don't we give the challenge or the responses of communication for chatbot? And that was quite interesting back then. But then I came back to the regular software development because I could talk to different people from different countries, do different projects, which was a bit more exciting for me than just selling an AI solution. And in the meantime, I saw some AI applications and, of course, some big cases like autonomous cars and some use cases from medical industry, like even our Polish, what's the name of it? I don't remember the name, but there is this famous Polish startup, Informatica, that they can diagnose your disease quite quickly based on some sort of interview. So I saw some examples in Poland, but since the last year, I didn't know that it's going to be such a big deal. And then suddenly in January 2023, the ChatGPT was born. And suddenly it became so popular that it was a train you couldn't miss. So you had to jump into the train. And the challenge for me was that we were quite involved into Web3 as well. And, blockchain Web3, it's still a sandbox R&D. It has very high ups and very high downs. So it's very unsustainable. And not many people understand how it works, where to apply. While with AI, it's completely different. After a few months, I saw so many people who've never touched AI, that they are using AI and they are building AI for their own purposes, not only content creation, but also productivity or some automation, which was quite extremely powerful, I guess. And we thought that we have to somehow refresh our AI knowledge. And also we've created a catalog of different solutions under the domain leocode.ai. So for the last few months, we've been doing some internal tools in the AI space, but we've also been consulting AI for some of our clients. We've gathered a few consultants So the journey has started, and I guess this is just the beginning, but I already see that it's changing the landscape in many areas, not only software houses.
So after all those years, I must ask you, what was your initial reaction when you saw Chat GPT and everybody got excited? So what was your reaction to this?
I was super happy. My reaction was finally, and I'm not gonna have to ask some people to do some
Yeah.
correction of my content. Also, I don't have to wait for copywriters. I don't have to wait for marketers. I can finally replace some content, some long
Yeah.
with something which feels more relevant on my website. I can preliminary generate some MVP within few clicks. Like building an MVP doesn't take 2 or 3 months anymore. It takes 24, 72 hours right now, which is fascinating. So I was super happy that we can finally automate the job that was repetitive, but also boring and, let's be honest, quite expensive.
Right, right. So everybody got excited, and those people who are not technical think of ChatGPT as a brain. We know that we have different types of AI, of course, right? And what do you think about this? Thinking that ChatGPT is kind of a Terminator that can do everything. There's a brain behind this solution. What do you think of this idea, so-called idea that people have?
I like I like this sentence called garbage in, garbage out. So basically, the challenge with ChatGPT is that it is still very generative, and it
Yeah,
depends on what you feed it in. Because if you feed it in
right.
with some generative knowledge, you will get very generative answer. And even myself, when I do some, I don't know, I use it for estimation, I use it for content creation, I always give it to
Mhm.
human for double check. So
Yeah,
maybe from the technical point of view, ChatGPT can do things faster, more well structured and so on. But then in
yeah,
terms of the quality and experience, it still doesn't have it, especially when it uses sources from before the 2021. So I see that in many areas, especially like in IT, 2 years, it's like a huge gap when you
yeah.
look for fresh content or for some new ideas. So I guess that's the trend. It definitely won't be Terminator, but I believe in those 5x or 10x developers or content creators. I've seen multiple examples of AI agencies. So, for example, a few years ago, there was a popular movement in US for doing social media agencies. So
Yeah.
you've done some course on YouTube or something, and you were able to start your own agency. Right now, these
Yeah.
same guys, they do AI marketing agencies, and they have also multiple courses and know-how. And I guess
Right.
it's quite cool because the barrier is lower for many people to enter the digital space.
Yeah.
The only difference is that you need to focus on quality, and to do so, you still have to have some sort of knowledge.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I'm not a designer, so for me, dealing with Midjourney, it's just based on my feeling. And if I don't have experience, my feeling can be wrong. I won't notice any particular stuff that like super experienced designer
Yeah.
will, and I won't make a proper judgment. So I guess we
Yeah.
are far away from being terminated, but not that far. I mean, in terms of the speed of adoption, the AI, because I've heard recently that AI is still like the use of ChatGPT went down like 10-15% for the last 2 months. I guess because the hype is a bit over, but still it's only 15%.
Yeah.
So the rest of the world is still using it and people
Well,
are consuming it. Yeah.
I think it could be also the competition because Bard appeared and all the other models. Llama came out with Meta AI Labs. So I think it's just people might have more options, and that's why ChatGPT went down. Or or the market is already very, how do you say, full.
And the
Yes, for
awareness
sure.
here in this
And
area
I
is
guess there's one
increasing, right?
thing that's
Yeah.
correct. And there was also from the economical point of view, quite interesting observation from my side that there were many layoffs in those huge IT corporations,
Yeah.
but on the other side, there was huge AI adoption. So, and if you look at the stock price of, for example, Facebook, they went 3 times up for the last 6 months just because Meta did huge layoffs and then they somehow restructured and then they put all attention into AI,
Yeah.
not Meta as metaverse, but more into AI. So there's a huge shift for the whole organization. And you see that in the stock price and also how VCs are valuing the company future and also their bets, because basically it's a bet for the future, how to shape and navigate through this crazy world.
Yeah. And today we're talking about where it leads the software industry, actually. So from your perspective, what are the key challenges that software agencies, all IT agencies, might face due to the rise of AI technology? The threats, challenges.
There are a couple of them. First of all, the people inside those, because we had many layoffs and we still see them, not only in startup, huge corporations, enterprise, but also in software houses locally. And it creates some sort of anxiety and tensions inside the companies. Who's going to be next? Because if there is some slow economic slowdown, people start having this fear that they will be next. And for the last few years, I would say 5 or 10 years, they didn't have to worry about job. They were chased by multiple HR people, 10 times messages on LinkedIn every single week. So basically, you were hunted. Now it's a bit different. I know many of the IT guys that, and many of the IT guys feel a bit, not even a bit, quite a lot confused because they cannot find the work, or not only for the rates they have, but in general, they go to a few different interviews and they don't get offers, which might be quite frustrating and also disappointing, which might lead to some mental issues, especially if you've never been chased. But that's one of the things. And
what do you think is the extent of the layoffs? So how bad did it impact employment at the moment?
I don't know. I would say
in the software development space,
10-15% of all employees, I would say, they were laid off and they just transfer from one place to another. It also changes the landscape because then corporations are willing to hire those guys directly, because finally there is some float on the market, so you can find very good people who are a bit focused or determined to find work. So it's easier to talk to them, it's easier to onboard them, and they might have more, again, attention to your company. So this is good for like direct hire, not so good for agencies, because then they might lose some clients. That's the one challenge for the people. But the second challenge is also for companies who, at some point, as we've mentioned, Facebook and some of the other guys that are competing on a very high level, software houses and the software agencies, they also compete at some level. So to be competitive right now, they need to implement AI. And this is like a conflict of interest, because at some point you want to make 5x people, but then you don't have that many clients to, for example, keep 100 developers. So either you make your 50 developers 5x and have more clients and then let 50 people go, or you leave it as it is, stop being competitive. Like with the old tools like Copilot and all of those automations, or even like today I saw the announcement of CodeJet, a Polish startup that creates React code directly from Figma and decreases the React code writing from around 50%. This is amazing. So basically, but it also again creates a fear among developers. Some of them are using it as a leverage to become stronger and more valuable on the market and deliver more value, but others just have fear.
As you say, at the moment we have about 15% layoffs. As it goes, I'd assume more and more processes are going to get automated. We're going to have more and more automation, all these architectural layers that we now do. We have to do manually. This will also be eventually handled, like full apps will probably be modified. So here comes a little bit of a question. Do you think it's possible that agencies might go completely out of business at some point? And what year do you think that might occur?
I don't think so. I guess that they have to adapt. I love Darwin. So basically the environment is changing and also the expectations from different clients are changing. So right now clients are focused more on bringing valuable solutions and quicker implementations than just like huge teams for 50, 100 people that cost X. which aren't properly managed, because that's also the challenge in multiple companies. For the last 6 months, the word restructurization was one of the most popular on the market, which means that we are cutting basically cost and looking into our structure of cost. And somehow we realize that we have 50 developers from the company X from Poland, and actually what these guys are doing, like, is this even efficient or not? So there is way more focus on efficiency and also on delivering smaller things faster that might bring value, because the market is very dynamic right now, and they also, like the companies we talked today, they struggle with making decisions that are quite costful.
Do you think that could impact the big outsourcing firms, or like really huge ones, which, as you say, the most problematic there is at the moment is the large teams, like 50, 60 people outsourced to some huge corporate client. Everyone is revalidating that once again. And do you think the landscape that we're seeing in artificial intelligence would cause it so that we go towards really small companies, really democratized consulting, or would we rather still stay with the structures that we see at the moment?
I guess it will definitely decrease the sizes of those companies. Right now, they live in the world where they have long-term agreements, like those 50, 60 people assigned to one project, and it will stay there for like 2, maybe 3 years ahead, just because that's how the structure and the costs are defined. But within the time, every company will be looking for optimization and cost reduction. And let's be honest, the biggest cost in the IT is always human factor, and for some reason it became commodity for the last year, and right now many companies try to replace commodity with the automation. So I guess the direction of software agencies is that we will have highly specialized agencies within specific domains and also specific technologies or some solutions applied to those domains. And then below that you will have solution architects or maybe tech guys who can build things from blocks. If you imagine right now, you see that Figma AI or Framer AI or Flutter AI from the one prompt can generate, of course, that's a basic website. Maybe it doesn't have like super pure code and so, but it works. But let's give it the next 2-3 years and see where it can lead us. There are those like predictions that within 5-6 years, the cost of the software development will go almost to zero, because every one of us will be able to create its own app. Of course, I disagree, because not everyone, even if you give people some no-code tools and ability to write a prompt, they won't be able, as we said in the beginning, to judge if this is correct or not and make additional screens. And also you need to be some sort of business analyst. If you want to be one-man army, you have to have very broad knowledge from business analyst, technical analyst, product development, and also sales and marketing clubs, because you need to build features on, and you guys build the software for yourself, so you know how challenging it is, how many interviews you have to run, and how much knowledge you need to make proper judgment. So
I think it's down to the judgment even now. The cost of development is one thing, but it's building the right thing. But that creates a follow-up question in my head. Since we will be relying a lot on prompting, and prompting requires obviously business and technical knowledge, a lot of that. Do you think there is still any future for bad coders? Because previously we did have bad coders, and people were, buying these people for $20 an hour and just outsourcing all of their very, very simple work to them so that they can lower the cost as much as possible. Do you think we'll still have demand for that kind of companies?
So do you think that AI will become kind of a filter in the marketplace?
Do we still need bad coders? Yes.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we need bad coders anymore. It's better to have less good coders who will somehow manage those automations and do the, code review. And then, of course, because bad coders are bad for 2 reasons, I guess. Like, one reason, someone is super lazy and doesn't want to develop, or secondly, he jumped into the code after some school, but he's not qualified or skilled on, basically he doesn't love doing code. So for him is even suffering being in IT right now and trying to jump out. Of course, the pity is that due to the fact that this AI is moving so fast, they might not have a chance to gain experience in becoming senior developers because there won't be enough teachers. So I guess the path for them is to get very close to the product they are building and understand how products are made, understand a bit of architecture, the front end design, and become those people who will not produce the code, but again, who will create stuff, who will create products, also talk to clients. So more like, again, business analysts, but not coders itself. And then they can pass code review, even for the ChatGPT or for some senior guys, because let's be honest, bad coders, why do you need bad coders? Pay for them, managing, fixing stuff after them. It creates more and more extra work and frustration no one really wants. And yeah, that was, as you said, that was a year ago, and there was like a huge pressure and push on growth for every price. And right now I see it has changed.
So on the other side, we've already talked about those threats. So now, what steps can software agencies take to be more competitive? Among those big players, to show the true value they can bring to the table, and stay alive and build revenue. So what do you think? What steps? How can they leverage AI to become stronger, especially right now in this economy?
I guess you always start with the low-hanging fruits, because if you don't have reputation or trust in the AI, no one will use your AI services if you've never been there. I would recommend to go for your current clients and see if there is some opportunity for automation or adding some extra AI features. So, for example, you work for some logistic company and you see that you've done some software and there is still so much manual work, and suddenly you create some like a workshop with the client that, guys, we can automate that. We could use ChatGPT or some other tools to shorten the process of like drag and drop of the packages from place A to place B and make it twice shorter. We just need to make a few improvements. Based on that, you create first of all, trust in your current client that you're able to do so. Secondly, you create some knowledge, because knowledge stays within the company. Thirdly, you create some case study or even some micro product for this logistic company for this specific case. And if you have that, you might think, okay, if we done it once, maybe there are more logistic companies that can use our solutions. So you reverse your business into more solution business and also into the sales approach within specific, again, industry, specific problem solution approach. And that's one of the solutions I would recommend. So you somehow specialize, because we all know that those generic software houses, they compete against each other, and the only way they can compete is they know someone and someone trusts them. That's why they are picked. Secondly, price, but come on, it also goes down and it won't be sustainable within the next years. So you have to deliver some sort of value, and by value, then it's always with the ROI. So we will use your solutions, you will implement that, it will cost X. Within 2-3 years, you will have 3 extra turns, based on simulation, of course, or based on the current clients we have. This is our like promise, not guarantee, but more like a promise or faith.
So what you're basically saying is that previously we had services and we were delivering services. Now we need to evolve from these services to solutions, and then to providing reliable products based on the solutions that we provide to the initial first clients that we proposed a given solution to. Yes?
That's one way. Of course, you still can have some like delivery center approach. So you can have big clients outside of Poland who is planning to build his own office here in Poland, and you want to be the main vendor, like this body leasing type, or people are like clients outside of Poland, because we are talking mainly about right now about companies that build products or have some product expertise. But let's be honest, there are still many agencies that are like HR agencies, a bit more, let's say, and their main service is body leasing or team extension. So they just deliver teams specifically for CTO's needs in different startups or enterprises. And then the whole management, everything goes out. So you don't have to worry about the product, about value, because someone else is delivering that. You have to make sure that the quality of the code and the product is as expected. So, and that's also part of the game. And these guys might stay here. Again, it's still the discussion between having people in-house or outside. If this makes sense from the quality and cost perspective. Like, for example, I was in Copenhagen a month ago, and one of our clients said that right now developers, for them, it's even easier to hire and cheaper to hire developer from Sweden due to the currency rate. Polish zloty is extremely high right now comparing to euro and USD, and it doesn't help our IT industry because we become expensive for them. And when the ratio changes between similar countries, and Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden are quite similar, they prefer to have people who are closer to them in terms of the language and also in terms of the culture, because your advantage or unique selling point disappears at some point. And even if they like you, you might see the risk of losing those clients within the next months or years.
What about implementing AI inside the company? What about the operational side of using AI inside the company? Can you see any challenges and opportunities in this area? How these companies, the software houses, can implement inside, not only on this sales side or marketing side, but inside their processes?
Yeah, I guess you mentioned one word, processes. If you're aware of processes in multiple departments like sales, delivery, HR, you should start with that. So map all processes you have inside the software house, then discuss which of those processes or actions require quite a lot of manual work. And thirdly, go into different marketplaces where you can find ready-to-go solutions, because sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel and build something from scratch. That doesn't make sense. If you go to make.com or Zapier, it's like a base of automation, not even AI, but they add AI on top of their services. You can automate half of your company. So basically, don't do the stupid thing that most software houses still do. Let's build something from scratch because this is only specific for us, and later on we'll think how to do it, and then 2 months later they have half product which doesn't work or doesn't integrate. Sometimes it's better to be integrator, so to find a few blocks and solutions and put them together, and you only write some piece of code as a low code just to customize it for your specific needs. So I would definitely recommend that, and look into your processes. And again, don't threat people, just make sure that some of those tasks, like lead generation or onboarding or some reminders, let's be honest, they are boring. No one wants to do that. If you can find those little pains, then you can definitely implement AI the way everyone will be happy, because then they have more time for more meaningful and relevant work, even for some creativity. Especially right now when there is a slowdown in the market, everyone is fighting for new clients, more leads, more offers, more closing. So maybe we can just move more people into that area, into some, and then from the operation part of the company.
Right. So my actually last question is, if we take a moment to look at the current landscape of AI development, where do you think AI will take software houses, especially those smaller ones, in the next 10 years? Let's talk a bit about the future.
No one knows, like 10 years. I like
know.
this question. I know I've never been to the job interview because it always was hard, or somehow work with friends. But there's this famous question: when do you see yourself in 5 years? And if someone asked me that question, I would laugh. I was like, I have no idea. If you asked me 5 years ago where I see myself, no one could predict this Web3 and also AI movement. No one, like maybe a few of them, but they were super lucky if they put a bet on that and invested in some certain areas and companies. But if you ask about 10 years, I guess, because we will still need some technology And from what I see in many software houses, 30%, maybe 40% in Poland, they do not specialize in anything particular. So they're good at writing code, but they don't deliver extra value, unfortunately. So the market will demand more value-driven companies. So basically, if you're a service-driven company and you're quite expensive, which is still the case in the IT, they need to have, your clients need to have some ROI, and they need to see that you're not only coding stuff. This industry is also broken through the VC because half of those clients, of software houses clients, they do not spend their own money. It's VC's money, so you throw it away for testing, for experiments, for MVPs, and so on. But if you go to a serious like enterprise company, okay, they also waste, but okay, or SMBs companies, you know that they always ask you about, okay, your case studies, similar experience with similar companies, what can be the business impact, because they need to confirm the budget, but they also have to convince the board members that this investment makes sense and is worth spending time. So that's the direction I think it will go. So if you ask me, for smaller software houses, they will specialize, they will leverage with extra tools, and also focus on specific niches, because that's what can give them competitive edge. Like, let's be honest, I had this idea when we founded Soda, and we had multiple discussions that just like 6 years ago, that would be a good case for most software companies in Poland, that at some point they go into different directions, and we will be partnering more and more. Because if I have a friend from the manufacturing industry and that's not my area at all, I will pass it to someone. We share the revenue or something. But I know they are very good at that. And they, on the other side, they have some AI project in the contact center, and they know that I have solution for that. So implementation is super easy, and we have few clients, happy clients. So that would be the perfect scenario in my case, that instead of competing for one client, we'll have maximum 2 companies in Poland, maybe 3 per specific like area, region that specialize and can deliver things faster, which also have a positive impact on career paths, because people joining those software companies, they already know that, okay, this company is specializing in fintech, I don't know, huge fintech onboarding area, something like that. And then if you want to have your career within that space, you know that you will learn those processes for the specific size of clients, and you will gain those specific skills. When you have very generic software house, you have no idea what you're going to learn. You will be a fireman half of the time, and half of the time it depends on the project size and the client type, where it's going to guide you. So that's why I believe that somehow structuring the knowledge and focusing, it also creates better vision, because then each single company can say, we want to be the best in the Central Europe market in, again, logistic, like delivering logistic solutions, or one of the best companies, because then you have hard focus on sales, so you don't have to do this nightmare like, I need more leads. Like, which one? I don't care. Give me all of them.
Leads.
But then you have specific persona, exactly. You have specific USP, you have cases, your knowledge bases are growing, and also within the industry, you somehow become recognizable, because other players know what you're good at, and they will pass you some clients because they know that you will serve clients better. And that's it. That's how I see the industry. Of course, if that's going to happen, that's my wish, maybe imagination. But I had the same wish imagination 5 years ago, and I see that still like half of the software houses are like super generic, so never ever specialized. The reason for that is that
solutions.
They
We're
are
the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like
You can see on their websites very often, like, we build great software solutions, and that's it.
No. The main claim I see is like we change ideas into digital products, sometimes fast,
or something like this. Yeah.
So it never changes, because having niche requires you to focus for some time and maybe suffer that you don't take you still can take other leads, but you don't promote that you are good in other industries. No one should care about it and should even know. That can be your cash flow and so on, but you should only promote the cases that you want to be well known of, and then you can build your reputation as a company on those specific areas, because within 2-3 years investment, it will pay off. But again, most people don't want to do it because they're super busy with their current project, and that's the case.
Like famous actors. Sylvester Stallone known only as a boxer to everyone. Ahmad, that again makes me reiterate the same last question that I asked. Since you say we might be going into the direction of really small, specialized organizations, and the bureaucratic overhead that's causing big companies to be slow at investing is actually, to me, it's a bit of a nail to their coffin, but let's just call it a little bit of a slowdown towards the rest of the industry. So my question is, what is the future? What do you think is the future for large companies? How much will the big ones lag behind small ones?
Again, we're talking about the future.
There's always
Let's
a delay
predict
of like
something.
maybe 2-3 years, because they're to be. All changes take time, but it's hard to say. Unfortunately, I think bigger corporations will become bigger in terms of the revenue for sure, and some market share. Even right now, when you see those enhancement of Microsoft and Google Workspace tools, they are killing startups one by one, because there is this startup for transcripting videos, and there are like 50 of them. I already know like few of them and be using. And if you have Teams or you have Google Workspace, you don't need that anymore. So even TikTok does that. So I guess that will be one of the directions, that bigger companies will become bigger, but they will also search for automations and cost reductions, because that's their role, to become bigger. And even I saw this interesting structure that of the company, that on top of the structure there was CEO, and below there was AI plus human, like different departments combined. And 5 years from now, there was AI on top of the company, and below they were human. So basically the idea was that for the next 5 years, we will learn AI, how to operate, how to understand our needs, expectations, and how to communicate with us. But later on, it will be so smart that it will lead those companies as a huge intelligence, and it will just tell us where it needs like human hands, or maybe it needs human for some sort of interactions, because it's going to be a premium service to interact with other humans. And I guess that's where it goes. Definitely AI won't stop, but you never know. We've seen many things in this space universe, like so maybe it's like a temporary wave. It will have impact and footprint on the world, but we don't know. In the meantime, unfortunately, I guess we will have way different challenges, like even not to mention global warming. There's a huge heat wave coming through Europe, and okay, we might see it in the AI space, very narrow discussion about that, but soon we might have completely different challenges that IT and related industries will have to solve very quickly, just because you won't be running any server center if it will be too hot in the area, or there won't be coolers, and so on and so on. So we can talk about cloud and some other development of different IT industries. But again, in 5-10 years, we might have completely different challenges that AI will have to address, not building yet another to-do list on the Wunder list or something. We have, I guess the era of those startups is behind us. It was quite nice for some people. They became super rich, and also the whole software houses industry was built on those era. Money from US, VC, buckets. Then accelerators, startups, buckets, and money flows. And then at the end of the day, it flows to software houses, and then it flows whole leasing companies for Ferrari, Porsche, and some other supercars. Now someone has to pay for that. So I believe this might change a bit. So answering again, summarize your question, I don't have 0-1 answer. I guess definitely they will grow in size in terms of like revenue and market share. In terms of people, there might be some new competences needed, even for the automation or for the security. And there are still some legal obligations you have to fill in. So that might be the case. But I don't know. I don't know. We will talk in 5 years.
We'll talk in 5 years, exactly. So my last question: do you think that AI will destroy the software industry? Ever? Will it ever happen?
10, 20, 30 years?
I mean that software houses will not be that needed, not strong, but AI will do everything.
I guess definitely there will be less software houses because, let's be honest, we are still a factory of the world. Most of the IP goes from US or Singapore or from more developed countries. And if they will be able, even like ChatGPT, if they will be able to automate and just steal a few of our guys, they have some holes in the team. The other guys won't be needed that much because their idea, like let's talk for a minute about the whole IT, because how the software development was created. You had those assemblers. You have transistors, assemblers, layer on top of then C#. Then you have frameworks. Then you have
abstraction layers.
Abstraction layers, exactly. And we've created the whole software industry because some of the abstraction layers still required human, was the code writing or using frameworks. And the whole AI, like products or AI industry, specifically for this industry, which is IT, goes to the moment where we will talk to the machine as human. So we won't need the layer of software developers asking them, could you write or could you create an app doing this, this? Could you just code this screen the way I imagine? We will be talking to the AI or some assistant as we speak right now. And if something won't be clear, it will just ask us additional questions. So it will be mimicking human, but then translating it all into the code, into visuals. And that's the threat for the software houses industry within the next 5-10 years, because that's the direction. We always wanted to speak to human, our language. Frameworks like programming language, they are just languages, another layer of abstractions. We don't need that in the long term. I imagine myself having my own Jarvis where I can talk to Jarvis and he's like my buddy who answers my questions, whose orders put, like even e-commerce. Why do I have to go to this flat screen, sit in front of it every single day, 6-8 hours, and even do shopping? I don't want to have that. I can walk outside with my kid and then make some orders, or even the AI will recognize that something is missing in my fridge and then I will order it for myself. So I believe we still need a lot of AI to do that, get to the point where automation will be smart enough. But then the IT that will be left is, I would say, the compliance IT and also cybersecurity IT, to somehow make sure that, because we will be having some violations and definitely, with all of those deep fakes and unexpected outcomes of AI, we will definitely at some point want to stop it or maybe remove it, part of it, because right now everyone is super excited and is hustling, but it might not work for the long term. So somehow we will have to adjust changes or just revoke them if possible, of course, if it won't go too far, but we will see. So
I can imagine a completely new set of security issues arising from the use of AI models.
If you have your video on YouTube right now, someone can use 11 Labs and voice and clone your voice. Then with your picture, you can create your own persona, and you don't even notice that you are being recorded, or you have some interviews without being yourself and knowing that you are attending that. So that will be tough, I guess, especially in some sort of elections and societies and politics. So
it would be interesting to see AI. It will be interesting to see AI helping in the recruitment, for example. So when you're sitting in an interview, like something is analyzing your smile and analyzing what you're saying and whether this person is lying or not, this kind of thing. Do you think it might happen? It's like
Yeah, definitely.
like a
Definitely.
questioning. It's almost like questioning,
I
like
mean,
detectives.
definitely the challenge will be what is real, what is not real, because somehow we need to verify the reality. So I guess
Yeah.
many people will be a bit tired with internet if they have some negative experience. At some point, they will say, "Okay, I want to plug out because it's helping my life,
Yeah.
but it's also threatening my life." The challenge is for people like I was outside yesterday, and there was my neighbor sitting on a bench, and he works for some construction company, which I didn't know because our children go to the same kindergarten. And he said, "Oh, I've heard from my wife that you work for some IT company, and I just graduated from the IT courses. Maybe you're looking for some interns." And I was like, Jesus, what should I say to this guy? Like, starting as an intern in some JavaScript right now in 2023, when AI is replacing them so rapidly from some construction industry, when he needs at least 3 years to get to the mid-level or 5 to the senior level with some experienced guys. And he's asking for some internship, so he hasn't done any project yet, and he's changing his career with little kid and so on. That might be
That's
challenging,
tough.
and I guess many people, they believed in these promises of being super fast after 1 year of software development, and it might change. So that will be challenging.
Do you think interviewing process? I'll just give an example from my own perspective. When I still owned a consultancy, I had a client that was trying to organize a team to deliver a certain product. Never mind the details. We were doing recruitment, and eventually the client found a guy who was, I believe, in Indonesia, and he had a beautiful GitHub profile. You actually went into his GitHub profile. It was everywhere green, Saturday, Sunday coding every single time. When I go through all of their repositories, it looks somewhat decent. It looks good, like original code. Everything's there fine. But when they actually brought that guy over to me to the interview, and I started asking him questions, just relevant architectural questions regarding to the code, what he's doing, just basic what's don't repeat yourself, what's single responsibility principle, what's solid in generally basic software engineering question. The guy was completely clueless, and like completely clueless to what the questions what I was asking him. Where I'm getting at, imagine that at some point, perhaps people like that who are, fabricating their activity online, fabricating their experience, knowledge. They get access to video, recording software that allows generating screen, that they plug in GPT, so GPT answers questions for them. And how difficult will interviewing get? Do you think this could be a challenge at some point?
Maybe, but if you have a liar on the other side, you recognize it during the first week of work, and you will be just pissed and will let these people go after like some time. Of course, to do the interview, it's not enough to do the interview. You always have to, that's my opinion, ask for some recommendations from the previous workplace or see someone's work. And that's it. Like,
Which
if you
most
cannot
recruiters
have
don't
it,
do.
it means, yeah, most people don't do it at all because it's difficult sometimes, and they say that they won't get permissions, which it's just like, for me, is always yellow flag. If someone is quite good, doesn't have anything to hide, or can present his own project, or you can even check based on GitHub some repositories that he was like doing this code and so on and so on. So you have to do your homework not based on the interview and something one time, but more about his or her present history, as her previous history, and then also on people who used to work with that person. So
But background
cheating
checks,
will be easy.
but
Yeah, exactly. Cheating will be easy, definitely. Like, and some people are super confident in talking, and then when they go to work, they also have like, even if they have skills, they have wrong attitude. It's it's the problem that have never been solved yet. So
reality check.
I would say small projects, some reality check, or even small project where you pay for the outcome and you see if someone is engaged and do it by yourself. Even if he does it with the help of AI, but he delivers, that's fine. If there is a chance that he will deliver at your work later on, that's fine. People support with some tools, that's fine for me, as far as we agree on some deliverables and they deliver. And I can pay for that.
Not everyone believes that. A lot of people are actually saying that people should not use it, and it's better to actually avoid using it altogether.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't learn that much because you have, again, an abstraction layer, so you don't understand what happens beneath. Secondly, there is some privacy issues because you might share some code with OpenAI and some other open source companies. If you don't read the privacy policy carefully, it might be challenging, and then you can break the violations. So this is quite difficult.
Damian, it was a pleasure to speak with you, man. It was a great discussion. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys.
I hope to see you next time.
My fingers crossed for the industry. Yeah, I hope the industry will somehow shape itself, but it will require some curiosity, also courage, because the change is inevitable. My favorite word from Matrix, inevitable. And the challenge is how people will adapt to that and how they will shape their skills and also positions in that world. If they will lead the change, or will just follow other guys. So we will see.
And it will all depend on which pill they take. If you're talking about Matrix.
There are no blue pills anymore. Unfortunately.
Thanks, man.
That
Thanks
was
again.
still an option a year ago.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. See you. Bye.